Season 11, come and gone. Doctor Who seems to be a very contentious issue now, and this has been the most divided season the fandom has probably ever experienced. I've been shocked how much variety there is episode to episode. I keep up with a lot of Doctor Who content on this site. I'm part of many circles all around the web, and the general consensus seems to be that there is no consensus. Every fandom, every circle cannot even decide what the strong episodes of this season even were. But I definitely know the low points. Which makes all of these reviews this year really, really interesting. For everybody who didn't decide their opinion back in July 2017, there has been such a rich myriad of responses, approaches, and opinions. I've just been absorbing it all in. But me? Short answer, underwhelmed. This long of a wait, and I'm still kind of waiting for Doctor Who to show up. I think we need to shout out to all the WhoTubers who have been reviewing these episodes weekly. In fact, I think about it now, you probably get 10 times the amount of views this one will. But hats off to those guys for maintaining 15 minutes worth of stuff to talk about for every single episode. I chose not to do this. The Woman Who Fell to Earth left me so mild and entertained that I'm so glad I didn't make any kind of commitment. The episodes did not give me enough for me to turn that into 10, 15, 20 minutes of entertainment for you. I'm not even sure I'll be able to talk about some of these for 2 minutes, some because of my high blood pressure, but most because of my complete indifference. Well, I guess it's technically an episode of a TV show. Don't worry, I'm not here to shrug my shoulders at you for 10 minutes. I've sat on it, and here we go. I think it needs emphasising in this turbulent fandom, but I was excited at the reveal of a female incarnation, and I believe it can still be done justice. Whittaker still might just not be that pick. Of course it's not all down to her, but performance, direction and scripts all have their role and are major influences, and I think they have all kind of dropped the ball on this one. The gist I got from the first episode is this Doctor is likeable. There's promise of more, but it never quite comes through 9 episodes later. This Doctor is very likeable. And coming after Capaldi, that's, sorry, that's a downgrade. Chibnall described her as a no-tears Doctor, but it seems that he threw out all of the complexity and vulnerability of the character also. Ever since the revival, I think it's almost unforgivable to have a new Doctor who does not develop. The reason I'm still watching this show at all is because I'm so involved with the character, this millennia-old time immortal, who is heroic, adventurous, mischievous, who surrounds himself with whimsy, but if you think about him for even more than a second, is actually a very terrifying entity. And every single attempt I've seen at someone trying to describe her Doctor, or give her an arc, or a distinct personality, just seems like us making excuses. I hate to say it, but they are glorified headcanons. But she's kind! She's a mascot of goodness! Yeah, that kind of feels like a cop-out, guys. The unequivocal kindness angle seems like a bare minimum requisite to let it define her Doctor. I've seen some trying to justify her by saying she's the living embodiment of Capaldi's final dying words. Run fast, be kind. Oh, so Moffat's words then. There has to be a point where you sit down and realise we're not getting a new personality this year, and we are just kind of making excuses for her. I genuinely don't believe there has been enough series foresight or communication to pick up actually any kind of consistent approach and stick to it. And that doesn't just go for the characters, that goes for the episodes too. Now, I haven't out and out despised many of the episodes this year, except one, but was left more so empty, with some very gradual, very, very safe stories. This is Doctor Who on autopilot. See, when Rusty Davies or Stephen Moffat missed, it was at least an interesting car crash. One that gave us a lot to work with and analyse and talk about. On multiple occasions this year, Season 11, episodes just suddenly ended. Just out of the blue. I had to rewind to find out, did they save the day? Oh, okay. Every single episode got a rewatch, not because I was the conductor on the hype train, but because I felt like, was that it? Did I miss something? And the answer is no. Just exposition again this week, guys. It's dull. Chibnall, buddy, I defend you on this channel. I've sung your praises quite a bit. He's the man who made Broadchurch. he salvaged Torchwood Season 2. And he delivered some very serviceable Doctor Who episodes. This is clearly a fine writer with all of his flaws on huge display. On a series he may or may not even have wanted. I feel like I'm becoming a bit of a poster boy for Lefty Who. Sure. But don't think I'm an advocate for this series. It probably was the weakest run we've had in the reboot. This year I became a Master of Arts. Which is a hilarious title, please never call me that. Graduated at master's level from an entire dissertation about toxic fandom. And as the episodes were coming out this year, I found myself in a very familiar pattern. I didn't even like these episodes, yet I found myself defending them to family, internet commenters, and bigots. Oh look, it's an SJW agenda. We have gatekeeping, conspiracies, and there's usually a big nasty woman all behind it. We could play bingo with these clowns. But to see all this happen to my beloved icon of a show, to see Doctor Who become the next pop culture troglodyte target, is just tiring. Yet, at the same time, I don't owe this production team my approval. Which I think might put me in a rather unique and frustrating position. If you're sat there wondering, who is this guy Lefty? Is he the far right? My political compass does not come into it. As a fan, and only as a fan, these episodes gave me very little to work with. My opinions on a TV show are just as valid as yours, but if we're talking about toxic fandom movements, haha, that's my field. If fandom is being weaponized and radicalized, I'm going to point it out, full stop. I won't bore you with a literal 23,000 word dissertation, but trust me, not a new phenomenon. And the thing is, as a fan, there were so many legitimate criticisms to take issue with this year. And yet, through all of their hateful narratives, I don't think these outrage merchants even scraped the surface of any of them. But it doesn't come down to politics or fan service, it's the episodes. And it always will be. We are 7 minutes in, time to talk about some goddamn episodes.
The woman who fell to earth.
Lame villain, meandering plot. The highlight actually is Jodie, who makes a lukewarm, overly familiar, but likeable Doctor entrance. She has the delivery of 11, the dialogue of 10, and the down-to-earth working-class motif of 9. She's every Doctor at once because they truly did not pick a direction this year. But that's okay, it's only the first episode, it's early days, and she gets her share of cute moments. But this was a below-average flop right out the gate for me. Quick exposition and running around. Oh no, Grace is dead. But a fun cliffhanger is a fun cliffhanger. This episode plays all the right beats, and fulfills its purpose in a pretty unremarkable way.
The Ghost Monument.
Still riding the new series hype, Chibnall's second episode kept up a very similar pace, this time with phenomenal cinematography and a great concept that unfolds into absolutely nothing. Chibnall has claimed that the only consistent arc was the development of the characters, and to its credit, this is a very character-led story, in a script where everybody just genuinely seems dull. Here's where Whittaker's Doctor falls into a hole. It's not a post-regeneration episode anymore, and yet she still acts like it. For the entire series, actually. Trying to find yourself and discover who you are sounds interesting, until you realise that means you have a half-baked, partially formed Dr. Light for 10 episodes. She flips between uber-competent and incapable a bunch in this story. And then it turns into a different episode in the final 20 minutes.
Rosa.
This one met super mixed reviews, but this was actually a turn for the better for me. The ITV high-end drama presentation does not do this show any favours, but this episode legitimately looks and feels different. The character stuff finally begins to work, and there's a bunch of brilliant little interactions between the TARDIS crew to actually make me start to care who they might be. This is a very rocky, insane historical event to frame a Doctor Who story around, and I don't see it ever coming out of any other era of the show. As previously established, all Doctor Who has been political, and to declare an episode's politics as poorly done isn't an objective argument. As far as I'm aware, the story never oversteps its revisionist boundaries, but at the same time I'm getting a little bit tired of the Doctor's lack of presence. For a historical episode, I also feel like we don't actually get to know Rosa. So much for character-based scripts. She's not a Shakespeare, she's not a Vincent, hell, she's not even an Agatha Christie. We spend a lot of time with her and don't really get a lot beyond the music. Yes, this is a very important woman. Now can we meet her? There's very minimal interactions with the Doctor and Rosa due to the nature of the story, and I didn't feel like it earned this moment at the end. Oh, and the music? I'm on the against bench. Please don't do this again. And then there's Krasko. Oh, Krasko. Laugh at me all you want, but a terrorist rogue time agent who cannot physically harm people is a brilliant idea for a villain. And I know you can't reason with unrational prejudice, but something, anything, at least try to give him a detestable backstory, otherwise he is just a caricature. Also, Ryan murders him, with no repercussions at all. For such a character-based series, Ryan's anger issues really don't go anywhere.
Arachnids in the UK.
No hyperbole. This was probably the worst episode of New Who ever. A solid and certain 1 out of 10 with nothing redeeming in it at all. Hey, if you liked the Spider Sheffield story, with the pointless Trump caricature that added nothing to the script, with Jodie Whittaker regurgitating previous Matt Smith performances, with no plotting and no resolution, then more power to you. I thought this was a horrible, horrible mess. It feels like an episode made to prove the naysayers right, to validate their terrible conspiracies, and prove the political agenda. I get it, Trump is a thing. He's the worst, we should laugh at him. Sure, should we capsize a boring spider plot to do it? Unrefined and topical in all the grossest of ways. Spider-Trump does not play into the plot or the themes, and the character's so disposable he literally just walks out of the episode. Even as just a monster B-movie, there's fears and hellbents. But I'm quite confident in calling this the worst episode of New Who I've seen. Not Trump is a terrible actor, I hate this performance with a passion. And the episode is obsessed with him. I hate that this character even has to exist in the Doctor Who universe, but here we are. Giant spiders in sci-fi and fantasy are overplayed, giant house spiders are especially boring, and it all seems very dependent on me having arachnophobia. I don't. I was bored. And finally, Series 11 has a real big morality problem. There's a handful of instances where a main character, taking the moral high ground, but actually does something poorly written, stupid, or accidentally evil instead. How dare you shoot that deathly man-eating spider? I'm going to now clumsily advocate for gun control and do my pacifist plan, making them all starve to death. Doctor Who saves the day! I don't know how this script entered any stage of production. It's boggling, it's awful, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. I think it's really quite remarkable that Chris Chibnall didn't have any ideas this week, didn't have any scripts on the back burner, but still allocated himself an episode anyway. Yes, Chris Chibnall penned 6.5 episodes out of 10. And the funny thing is, no matter your opinion on this series, no matter your place on the extreme political spectrum, nobody seems to like Chibnall. Anyway, I'm editing this as I go, and this is a colossal video. Tune in a couple days, and we'll finish off the list. Thank God they get better.